Okay, so this is the Griffin grip, and then we have a piece that we're going to use. So here is the piece that we're going to trim, volunteered. And if it's stuck to your bat, you just got to kind of pop it off, and then, because as it dries, it'll just pop off. And then we've got all this extra stuff that's what we're going to be trimming. We could also trim the inside if we want to, but normally we start with trimming the bottom. So we flip it over upside down, and you're going to set it in here. This centers it for you, and then we just need these to hold it. So this is 2 pieces. You kind of hold on to the bottom one, and then you turn the top one to tighten. And this one was already pretty close, but now this piece should not go anywhere. If this gets all gummed up, you got to just pop this off. This whole thing pops right off. Well, like that. And you got to take it to the sink and rinse it off. Trimming is messy, and you're going to get a lot of leather dry schnibbles everywhere, and it's your job to pull the pan off and clean it up. Tools that you're going to need are these loop tools. These are carving loop tools. So there are other loop tools where it's just a wire. You want these ones here because they have a blade, and that's what we need. And you can, depending on the size of your piece and what you're trimming, I'm going to trim this off. So I'm going to use part of one of these, and then I'm going to trim in the inside here, and I'm going to use this one here. So first things first, I'm going to start with the big one. I'm going to make sure that my wheel is spinning. Okay. And then for trimming, we don't want to go wild. You don't want to have this be like 90 miles an hour. So keep it at a medium pace so you can see what you're doing. And then obviously avoid those blue things because you don't want to hurt yourself. But then what you're going to do is you're just going to hold this here, and you see how it's pulling off that extra lip that was on the bottom there. So depending on the shape that you want to define, see how that's starting to kind of round that off. If you wanted this inset more, use a different tool. So then maybe you might want something like this. And so you can hold this here. Get yourself a little bit of a different groove. You can also use this decoratively if you wanted to put different grooves into it. But then I'm going to scrape this down. And this is why you have to leave some sort of clay on the bottom. You don't want to go too thin or you'll pop through your design. Okay, so now that I've got that part, I'm going to show you how to do the inset. So most pottery has an inset. It not only helps with the weight of the piece, the drying of the piece, but it's also just a nice finishing touch. So I take this one here, and I tend to, anytime I throw or do anything on the wheel, I brace my elbow on my knee so I'm nice and stable. And then I kind of hold my other part of my hand here so that I can get good control. And I dive right in. I go in about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and I dive right in. And then I can just pull until I get the majority of this carved away to the depth that I want it. I'm going to stop. And sometimes if you get too many schnibbles and you want to brush them away with like a big paintbrush, you can do that too. But then I'm going to use one of these other larger ones to get the rest of the inside here. And you see how the clay kind of at this stage, it's a little bit like gummy, so it wants to pull you around. Don't let it boss you around. You got to boss the clay around. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff in the middle. See where I'm at. I'm going to go back in, get a little bit more until you're satisfied with what you have. If you want to really define that edge, go back in there. Whoa, see when you do that, then you end up with it all over the floor. And then you got to sweep it up. So because I like having that more defined edge, I'm going to go back in with this tool. And then you can also use sandpaper on these. So when you pull it off of the Griffin grip, to pull it off, I usually, just to make sure I don't accidentally bump the wheel, I flip it off. And then I'm going to hold the bottom and I'm going to shimmy to loosen, and then I can pick my piece up. And then if I wanted to, do you want me to trim in the inside?
Just a little.
Just a little? Okay. So then we're going to put it here. We're going to tighten this back up. So I'm holding the bottom of the white piece and then turning the top to tighten it. So now it's snug for me. So then I'm going to use this softer one because We don't want to do a ton of trimming in here, but just a little bit to show you. Turn your wheel back on. Same thing. Oh, check to make sure we're spinning. And I'm actually going to spin this the other way. So on some of these, it has reverse and forward. I want to have mine spin the opposite way that it was spinning because that's how I like it. So we're going to test. There we go. No, never mind. There we go. So if you go on the switches on some of these, one way is forward, one way is reverse, and the middle is neutral, so it'll seem like it's not working. So if it doesn't work and it's on and the light is lit up, then that means that it's probably in neutral. So you just have to adjust it. Okay, so I'm gonna use the rounded end here so I don't mess up where she had thrown. And I'm just gonna go in here and I'm gonna leave that middle alone because she wants to keep that. And I'm just gonna clean it up. And this also helps for thinning because this is a little thick. And if we can thin it out just a little bit more, then we can get it in the kiln because it'll dry a lot faster. Get all those schnibbles. And there is broom and dustpan for when you're all done. Sweep up all these schnibbles. These you don't have to worry about recycling. Just throw them in the garbage. That's totally fine. All right. And that is it.